God, I am really blind. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see you. That is so funny. What?
How are you?
I'm great.
Listening to myself I know her.
Do you know what's so crazy about this moment?
What?
I am doing a YouTube video.
Shut up.
I swear to God. I swear to God. I'm doing a YouTube video.
I'm telling you, the universe is correct. How are you doing?
So this woman, look, I'm getting this. This
You
woman,
have
like last week, we just met last Tuesday at a photo shoot. And I was explaining to her about how terrified I was about starting a YouTube channel. And so I'm sitting here doing my first video for you guys. And then she just starts kayaking right by me.
How the fuck? Like, I'm telling you, this shit is crazy. Oh my god.
She also has a YouTube channel. What is your YouTube channel?
The Spiritual Life of Jacqueline Rose.
The Spiritual Life of Jacqueline Rose. You guys definitely have to. Blessings, everyone. Blessings. It's Baraka the Doula Scientist. Thank you so much for coming to my channel again. I just wanted to hop on really quick because I've been having these like really intense experiences in relationship to just kind of manifestation and attracting things that are sacred to me. And so I wanted to have this episode where we talk about moon synchronization and synchronization in general, like in your everyday spiritual, physical existence. So a lot of people know, and maybe some of you guys too, but I have actually been practicing and researching astrology since I was 8 years old. Before it was like all hip to like be into astrology. And so I, over the years, have learned like a lot of different aspects of astrology that are more so related to science and like planetary movement more so than anything. And so a lot of times when I talk to people who are like, oh no, I don't believe in astrology, I'm kind of like, oh, so you don't believe in moon phases? You don't believe in like the tide? You don't believe in like all you're doing really is essentially taking those markers, right, of where the planets are in the sky at certain times of the month, and then applying it to patterns that you see within people. Like that's literally what astrology is. And so I feel like my goal, because over the years, like I'm coming in close to, what is it? I'd say almost 20 years that I've been researching and reading and becoming more and more connected and like in tune with astrology. And so in that same space, I've also been talking to other people and teaching other people different aspects of astrology. And in the last few years, ever since I started synchronizing my period with the moon and being more in tune with my body, just from the perspective as like me being a woman and me being a woman who is going deeper and deeper into her prime, which honestly, prime is more so just descriptive more so than it is like where I actually am in my life, because I feel like everyone at some point, and it has nothing to do with your age, it's more about your feeling and your relationship to your child or inner or revolutionary self, right? But just doing those practices within my own body in this physical world has really helped me to engage with the planetary movement a lot more. So, and I've taught other people more about planetary movement and moon cycles. A lot of my clients who I deal with fertility awareness method, they typically have a section of themselves that I share with them and how it relates to the moon phases. Because I mean, the moon is technically, It controls the tide, just like the sun does. And then on top of that, we're also dealing with humans, right? And humans are 70% water. So having that full-fledged connection, like with the environment in that way, it impacts you. It impacts everything around us. So of course it impacts you, right? So bringing it back to moon synchronization, like right now, tonight is the Aries New Moon. And so being close to the ocean right now is something that I am learning that is necessary in my life to maintain this spiritual connection, right? And so it being in the Aries New Moon, it's also like this strength of energy. So the tides occur on the full moons and the new moons. And so if you're thinking about that, right, and thinking about having a relationship with water, right, in those extreme, intense moments where we're literally, our bodies that are full of water and like being forced by the gravitational pull much stronger than usual, right? Because when you have the combination of the earth, the moon, and the sun, that is what creates, the bugs are like kissing me, that is what creates the gravitational pull that creates that strong tide, right? And so that's also happening with our bodies because we're 70% water. And then combining that with it being on the new moon and full moon, you understand why new moons and full moons are these powerful moments where we can really harness the energy and the power of what we're trying to manifest. And so as a spiritualist who has been practicing moon synchronization and manifestation with these moon phases for probably 4 or 5 years now, I think that, and then regulating it in my family practice and regulating it in the practice that I share with my community, my sisters that I do ceremony with, like all kinds of ceremonies, right? Psychedelic, tantric, like love, like closing of the hips, all these ceremonies, these rituals that we have created or that we have passed down, we've synchronized ourselves to include these moments on these strong forces. And now I do recognize that, I talked to another spiritualist, like a masculine spiritualist recently, older, it's a older man who runs a spiritual shop like in Austin, and he sells all kinds of beautiful things. Like he sells cowrie shells. Like I actually have 21 cowrie shells that I got from him. Palo Santo, sage, candles, saint candles, like all these beautiful items that we use as tools, like to harness our powers, right? We had this beautiful conversation. He owns Green and White, so if you're ever in Austin, I highly encourage you to visit Green and White, because he is like a man of color. He's still a part of Austin East Side, and so we had this conversation about how, our ancestors, they weren't specific about when they ritualized, like if you had a bad harvest, and it doesn't matter if that was on a full moon or a new moon, you went out there and you did what you had to do. You talked to your ancestors, you prayed in ceremony, you took yourself out of your body with like plant medicine. Like those are things that happen on a regular basis because we were so much more in tune with Earth cycles like in those times than we are now. Now, like, we have electricity, so the electricity, it fucks with like our mediums for how we are able to deal with the times and like really relate to the times like of the day. We have fucking alarms, it's not like we're always being woken up by roosters and birds anymore, because we don't live within the elements as closely, right? We don't go to sleep when like frogs stop croaking, because we're not there anymore, right? So I feel like a big part now of harnessing the energy on full moons and new moons that is so important is because we lack that connection. So just like when I tell my clients that who are studying fertility awareness method and they're trying to resynchronize their bodies and explore themselves to learn like what their natural rhythms are, you have to follow the moon cycle because you're off track, right? You're off your natural rhythms. So in that same space, I feel like for people who are beginners and learning about how to synchronize and how to create manifestations, it's important that you follow a moon cycle. Like, that you follow the moon cycle, right? Not a moon cycle, but the moon cycle. So that's not in relationship to your local, horoscope that you read in your magazine, right? Which is one of the reasons why I fucking hate reading horoscopes. Like, I hate when people are like, oh, I don't believe in astrology because, like, when I read my horoscope, it's wrong. I'm like, first of all, okay. First of all, you're going off your horoscope, but where is the astrologist or person who created that horoscope? Where they are in the world is going to be completely different from where you are, just based off of the moon alone. Like, they're seeing a totally, when you read your horoscope, they're basing it off a completely different, like, not all the time, but most of the time, especially like these major, like Cosmopolitan and stuff like that, these major magazine companies, they're reading the stars from a completely different perspective from you. So it's important that you're on track with your moon cycle. What does the moon look like tonight where you are, you know? That's important. So also, you have 12 placements, technically 13, like, because you have all of the placements from your houses, and then you have all the placements of all the different planets, plus your rising sign, right? So I encourage people to read all their placements, you know, like, if you're having communication issues or you're trying to manifest like a more profound connection with the way you're able to communicate, whether that's in business, you know. So communication is like your Mercury, right? Your business is like your Saturn. So if you're trying to manifest in that way, all these insects are biting me. I've been sitting here getting bit by ants this entire time. They're just kissing. But yeah, like, if you are in thinking about, like I said, how to manifest better communication, right, with your Mercury or like in Saturn, I encourage people to read their sign on Mercury, right? Practice makes perfect. And so that same rule applies to the way that you're able to manifest. Like, don't just settle on one way of manifesting. Like, use all of that energy, right? Use all of that energy, because it cycles. First of all, that energy cycles, and the more of it that you bring into the world and in each space that you occupy, the more of like the blessing that you'll receive, and the more of the blessing that will be recycled and given to everyone else and everything else around you. This is now my second YouTube episode, and so I loved how this came about. I actually went to a photo shoot, maybe, I don't know, that's now been like 2.5 weeks ago. And the photo shoot was for a company called BK Beauty, owned by Lisa J of Lisa J Makeup. She's also another YouTuber who does these amazing like makeup tutorials, and so she has a best friend who did her nails, who's like a nail tech, and also another YouTuber, and her name is Jacqueline Rose. And so Jacqueline Rose, I was explaining to them, yeah, I wanted to make this YouTube channel, and I wanted to share like all of these experiences that I've had, like with my spirituality, with my sexuality, with my motherhood, with my escapism, with my partnership, my community collaboration, like all of these things that I've learned, my nutritional habits, all these things that I've learned, like from a holistic perspective of just healing and health, right? And so I believe like all of those things are interconnected. Like your spirituality is one with your career, is one with like your relationship to your family, to your lover, to your children. And so putting that all in the same umbrella, like under a YouTube channel, was something that I've been really manifesting for years now. But I kept what I was telling Jacqueline Rose and Lisa J that day was like, you know, I hate the way I talk. I fucking hate the way I sound, right? But it's like, it's not about like what I sound. It's about the fact that I'm trying to create a ripple effect in this world, that we have people everywhere who are exploring themselves and like sharing with others and being intimate and being vulnerable. And that's something that manifestation does. And a part of that is doing this. This is like, I've already been moon synchronizing. I already have been synchronizing with the moon, and I've already been practicing fertility awareness method. I am in the process now of realigning my body since I transitioned a child like 4 months ago. I am realigning my body with, you know, veganism and pescatarianism now, and so this is just a big part of it, right? So they were saying what Jacqueline had told me that day was like, hey, you know, you should just do it. Just go ahead and make a channel, make a few episodes, listen to yourself. And so literally the week after that, I went to my favorite tree in the entire world and I recorded my first episode. And so it was insane because like I'm sitting there in mid recording, and it's like this tree, it's like this sacred tree, like half of the roots are in the Colorado River and then the other half are like on top of the ground. So it's like this tree is so old, right? It literally watched Austin grow. It was probably there before Austin was even a city. You know, it's literally a really old tree. It's probably the oldest tree I've seen in Texas, to be honest. And you know, that's one of the things I love about like the Pacific Northwest. They have much older trees. In Texas, we have, you know, cut down a lot of our trees for oil and gas and big developments, etc., right? But anyways, all that to say, that was part of my synchronization. That was part of my manifestation, right? I had this conversation, I put it out into the world. Then the full moon was right after that, right? And I gave back to that full moon. And I manifested, like, yes, I'm going to start on this YouTube channel. I started reaching out to people and synchronizing that. In the same way, all of last week, right, prior to this new moon, I started working with the Circadian Calendar, which is something I started doing maybe 2 weeks ago. And the Circadian Calendar is the Chinese calendar, which it like basically puts you in these, each few hours is dedicated to a different part of your body. And because it's dedicated to a different part of your body, it's also dedicated to a different part of what you should be doing with your day, right? So every morning when I woke up at 5:55 to do like my morning meditation, I would do my morning meditation to the sound of the ocean. And so now, here I am in Puerto Rico doing this video, like on the ocean, on an Aries New Moon, like when the tide is super high. So it's like, you have to literally, and it's a process, right? It doesn't happen overnight. Like which is something I love, that's holistic like living at its finest, is understanding that everything is a process. Like dis-ease, right? It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that your body is creating a response to how you are treating it. So if you are treating your body poorly, over time, you're going to experience dis-ease. You're going to experience the feeling of what you have been doing to your body. But it doesn't happen overnight. Like I tell people all the time, if you've gotten sick, that's because you've already been putting yourself out there to get sick. In whatever way. Not just like, oh, you ate something badly. It's like you had a habitual, right, relationship to eating poorly. So now you're sick, you know, or you had a habitual bad relationship, right? You know, people forget how much relationships can impact you or put you in a space to be harmed, to experience disease. You get into bad relationships. I was in a terrible relationship in my early 20s. I talk about it all the time because now I'm like, oh my God, like looking back, I was fucking depressed between like age 19 to 23. And it was 100% related to the toxicity I was experiencing in a partnership. And so when you think about things like that, like you understand like directly like how these relationships are affecting you. So I have these very sacred intentions for this year that, you know, I'm going to be sharing with people, you know, as time goes on. And so because this is an Aries new moon, what's powerful about this is that when you go through new moons, I always set up like my intentions, right? I write down things or I start planting seeds for things that I'm trying to create. And that looks many different ways. Sometimes that is just journaling and writing out intentions, but also sometimes that is reaching out to people, people who I want to be involved in that space, right? And so it's because new moons are fluid, right? It's the beginning. It's not the recycle, right? Like on a full moon, it's more of the recycle. That's what I like. I feel like to manifest powerfully and potently, it takes action and it takes like more set movements and more intentional movement, like specifically in that day. The new moon is beautiful because you're setting the intention in a way where it's flexible, right? It's a fluid movement. And so the Aries full moon is also a fluid movement. It's a fluid movement because number one, Aries is the youngest sign in the zodiac. So the youth is fluid in their ability to transform and their ability to mold, right? They're like clay. It's that thing that they say about how children, you have the biggest amount of brain development as a child, like between, I think, like 6 months and like maybe 2 years. And the reason why is because like children's brains are literal sponges during that space. Like it's still developing, right? Your brain isn't fully developed until you're like, I think 25 for women and 27 for men. But it's like, because like in the beginning phases, it's doing all of that rapid brain development, like you're able to harness so much more information. That's why learning language is such a good time, is in that youth, right? That youth space, because you can really soak it all in. You're not a finished project, right? You never are. Of course, you're never a finished project, but you're brand fucking new, right? At 3, you know, or 2 or 1 or 6 months. You're brand new. So think of yourself as the cycle that you're in being those early stages of being a child. Think of that on a new moon. And so think of all the ways that a child develops, that a child manifests, right? And you take your child, whatever your moon sign is, right? I have a moon in Scorpio. So everything related to my moon, right, is it's all about transformation. So I take myself and put myself in that fluid space, and I bring my items, right? And then I make my connections and I talk to the people that I'm trying to talk to, and I create that space for me to manifest, right? So I want you guys to do this exercise, and whatever is representative, okay, for you. And then I want you to really meditate on those transitions that you are trying to manifest. The Aries full moon is a fire sign, okay? It's the first sign in the zodiac, so it's young, it's super young, it's fresh. So on this new moon, you can take that energy and you can transfer it into all of the impulses. Like, give in to those impulses today, because those impulses are going to take you to the heights that you're looking for, okay? They're going to push you forward into motion, whatever it is that you want to do, like with your life or with just the next 28-day moon cycle. Fuck, if you want to just set intentions for today, like, it's powerful because you have all of that energy around you with the fire, with the moon, with this tide. Like, pull yourself in, feel the force of being pulled to whatever it is that you want. All right? So let's go ahead. I'm going to sit here for a second and write out a few things that are my intentions, right, for this 28-day moon cycle. And then I'm going to recite them. But for right now, I just want us to breathe out of the space together. And I want you to do this by yourself on your own time. Okay? New moon manifestations. Breathe them into your lungs, from your mouth. Feel the pull grounding you, keeping you seated. You're fixed like scorpion energy, but still water. Ants are biting me, y'all. They want me. Let's do 2 more breaths. One more. Breathe in your nose. Breathe out your mouth. Thank you, everyone. Again, thank you so much for all of your support. Thanks for coming to my channel. If you love this video, like it, please share it. Share these tools with yourself, your community, with your family. And I hope everyone has a beautiful, happy new moon in Aries. hope all of your manifestations come true. And again, give in to your impulses.